Stand by for transmission.
Understand, it's not necessary for people to believe
disinformation
in order to weaken democratic institutions. You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, enough conspiracy theorize, that citizens no longer know what to believe.
Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back for another episode 4 of The Narrative. How the fuck is everybody? We got the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Frank, the Banks,
It's me, Mario.
And we got the bigger legend, Mr. Lucky. What is happening, people? How's your days? How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, wow. My Thanksgiving was excellent. We had a full house, so that was really nice. It was nice having a youngin' around the house to play with the puppy. So, yeah, it was a good time. Good time.
Yeah, ours was quiet. Just me and my wife, the pups. That was it. Our puppy had his first Thanksgiving. He wasn't sure about the ham and the stuffing, but we shared.
Am I having a little bit of a Groundhog Day in the fact that this question was last week? Am I having one of those murky days?
What about Thanksgiving?
It might have been the triple B.
Yeah,
Were you
it was
on
a triple B.
B?
No, it was on Friday though.
Yeah,
Well, it was the day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
He was in the chat of the triple B.
No, because he said something about having a little one over. That's the reason why I got deja vu.
I think we were talking about that on Wednesday prior. He said, because I think I asked what everybody's plans were for Thanksgiving. He said the little one's coming over.
Oh.
I know. Days run together.
Oh. It's in the other meeting that we were in this weekend. Never mind. You said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That gave me a little deja vu.
The super secret meetings. No, just joking.
It's all a psyop, ladies and gentlemen.
We're living a psyop, man. Oh, hope you guys don't know. That's when you know someone had a long week. Very much so. What's up, Panda?
Yeah.
Well, we missed you last week on the Triple B. You going to show up this week?
Oh, man.
But if you guys don't know, this here is the narrative. We crack open the headlines and we sit there and tell you what's actually being said behind them. And as they said today, we needed to create a segment called Rebels Rabbit Hole. So, because I fell down a deep one on this one. I started off on one little topic to write an article for the narrative website, and I fell so fucking deep. I literally had to spend an extra $20 so I can upgrade my research engine so I could actually go further and deeper. But yeah, so we'll be talking about, if you've seen the title, if you guys all know, we'll jump into that here a little bit later, but you guys all know who George Orwell is. If you don't, I'll be here this week. Sweet. But George Orwell, we all know he's the one that wrote 1984, Animal Farm, a few others. He was, he's listed under sci-fi genre. And 1984 was basically everybody classified. I mean, the mainstream historians, and I call them the mainstream historians because they just go what's right in front of them. The mainstream historians classified him as he was predicting the surveillance state, which the more I dove deep into everything and a lot of everything else, and at the end of the podcast, I'll be kind of like teasing the new segments that I'm going to be putting on the website about how, because we always made the comment, I always sit there and said, and everybody else same sort of agreed that time is made up, time is a construct. What we're living now is not reality. And
the gods made it on this flat Earth.
no, actually, man made time today, but we're going kind of, yeah. But anyway, I've been going through some things, looking at some things, kind of interesting shit. It kind of like drug me deeper and deeper and deeper. Went all the way back to the 15th century. That's how far back this shit goes, because that's about when documentation of our history kind of like started. I mean, we have the Bible and biblical days, but that's really not history. Those are just writings and manuscripts and everything else. I mean, I guess kind of a religious history, but
you should start wearing a referee shirt
like that,
because you got the Eagles up here,
mm.
you got the Bears over there. We need the
that.
referees right here with just dollar bills sprinkled on top of you.
I can do that. I can probably be a referee.
Whoever has the better points, we just drop money. Bling, bling.
Well, that was a good old fashioned dog walking on Black Friday.
Oh my goodness! I was too busy playing Arc Raiders. I'm addicted.
I want to play. I'm addicted to watching people playing. Yeah. But that is for sure. I mean, I want to get it, but it's
funny people. I like watching funny people.
It's not in my my financial status
budget here.
Yeah. Maybe
don't
next
worry. Here in like couple weeks at the end of December, they're having like a wipe, so you can just jump in then.
Hopefully it goes on sale. I mean, I know it won't like right now because it's too popular of a game, but
yeah, probably sale during Christmas Day.
Yeah, that's what I kind of figured. Probably like, I was hoping that they have like a cyber sale on them, but like they did all the other games. I guess that's up to the developers if they want to do that or not.
I mean, I'm so out of the loop when it comes to that. I have absolutely no idea what that.
That's how I felt last week when y'all were yapping. I had no idea what the fuck y'all were talking about, so I was just sitting there.
Yeah, I have zero understanding of video games. Period.
Oh, I don't either. I just know how to point and shoot. I don't know the mechanics. There's mechanics behind them and everything else, and everybody says, "Oh, you need to do this." It's like, no, it's just like on Call of Duty on Warzone. I've never done my loadouts, my guns and anything else since I played the game. I just pick up whatever on the ground, and a lot of times I actually do pretty good. But I mean, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. I haven't been able to play lately because my computer's been cracked, but I think I fixed it yesterday. So my fucking fans were like on high. They were like, my CPU fans and my cooling fans were like totally ripping. I mean, it was so noisy in here, but I couldn't figure out why.
Did you have to clean it out? Was there a rat in there?
No, not yet. There's probably some dust bunnies in there, but no,
bring your leaf blower over.
No, so my processor and everything, and my CPU or GPU is a gigabyte, and my motherboard's a gigabyte brand. So when it updated the software for some things, it downloaded a new set of software that you can control everything from the front end instead of having to go into your BIOS. And I guess when it did that, it set everything back to like factory, and which I guess factory is like having your fans on total high.
I said, "Do you want to get to Mars? This contraption might do that for you."
So I think I found that one, and then I did some things, and all of a sudden, my fans everything just kind of went zoom, and it went dead quiet in here, and I'm like, oh, fucking thank God, because my computer sits right behind me, so it's just like I can hear it even through my headphones. So yeah, got that fixed. That was my dilemma. So I know Lucky said he hadn't been. I have not been keeping up on any of the news because I've been tortured with trying to figure out some shit with the website. And the only thing I know going on is that Trump signed the Freedom Means Affordable Car Initiative, which basically rolls back Biden's mandates that all vehicles had to be a gas mileage of 50 miles per gallon. He rolled it back to 34 miles per gallon. So, I mean...
And that's new cars?
Yeah.
Had to be 39 miles to the gallon.
Well, Biden put in it had to be 50 miles to the gallon. He made a executive order back when he came in that they had by 2031 they had to be all new vehicles had to have a 50 mile an hour or a 50 gallon per mile rating. And I guess a lot of the car companies, a lot of the car companies were like, yeah, that's kind of impossible. And then of course all the oil companies were like, yeah, motherfucker, you're taking money out of our pocket now.
Right.
Because so I guess Trump today signed that, sitting there saying he dropped it back to, because I guess it was like 30 miles to the gallon was the standard for a long time, and now he dropped it back to 34 miles to the gallon. So, I mean,
even trucks.
I think just all passenger vehicles. No, you ain't gonna get a diesel doing 34 miles a gallon. Holy shit, no.
I'm sorry, but
you're lucky to
that
get
sounded like
you're lucky to get an 18-wheeler to do 10 miles to the gallon.
Most trucks don't even do that.
My truck gets, well, if I didn't have 37-inch tires on 22-inch rims and have it with a 6-inch lift on it, my diesel would get anywhere between 28 to 32 miles to the gallon highway.
Look at you, gangster.
But it doesn't because I have all those things, and it gets I still get about 20 miles to the gallon.
I mean, my old 2002 factory miles per gallon was like 16 on the highway, or 16 in town and 21 on the highway. And up until I parked it, it was still getting about 18 to 19 miles per gallon at almost 300 miles on the odometer. And the truck I'm driving now is a 2009, and I think it's about 18 to 20 miles to the gallon in town. But I only drive it to and from work, so I mean, usually $25 will last me a couple weeks. But
where I live, it's about 45 minutes to anywhere. So, no, that does not work. That does not. That math doesn't math.
The math and. Oh my God! I wish I'd have never clicked on that damn girl from that I put in the chat that I seen on TikTok, because now I get all of her fucking from the Whatever podcast. She is so fucking.
I love that. I love the At Whatever podcast. I really do.
She is so fucking annoying. She reminds me of Fran Dresser from the old TV show Fran.
I don't give a fuck about her opinions, but her voice. Fuck that voice. Okay.
But I mean, it just goes to show you that, what we seen last week, the education system doesn't always mean you're intelligent.
It actually kind of is counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it depends on what college you go to. They fucking teach you they don't know how to just educate. They just want to indoctrinate.
You're just another number and now a part of the rat race.
Mhm.
Still,
Well, not only are you another number as far as the rat race goes, but you're also another number when it comes to um, the funding piece, right? Because I mean, no one can just afford college. They just can't afford college. So now it's a system where they're putting people into debt, and now you're creating workers rather than entrepreneurs or business owners or thinkers.
mm-hmm.
Well, we talked about this last week. You know, the school system wasn't designed that way. It wasn't designed to make thinkers.
Right.
You know, and every time somebody tries to break that design, you know, it always ends up they get hell for it and slammed for it, and they have to go back right to. Because I mean, I do agree. I mean, we do need workers, but we also need thinkers too.
I think yes, that's true.
I think.
Therefore I am. Yeah, we're on the same fucking page.
But no, I mean that. Yeah, I mean that's. I don't know. Life is just crazy, but and it's funny because everything that we're seeing going on right now all rolls into exactly this rabbit hole I've been down. You know, I can't even see daylight anymore from it.
He says, "I wish I was back in school
Yeah, no, never.
after going into this rabbit hole."
Oh, if
Well-
I knew this information going into school, yeah, I definitely would like to go back to school.
So all my
Did you hear
teachers
about that,
are incorrect.
Right. And a bunch of liberal pukes. Did you hear about the Somali tax fraud deal
Huh.
where the state of Minnesota is being investigated by the Department of Justice for sending 1.7 billion with a B dollars to Somalia through fraudulent channels.
Somalia. What's in Somalia? Let's look it
I
up.
think the bigger question is who is from Somalia that's in our government?
Elon
That's a bigger
Omar.
question. And I'm sorry, who is she? Is she a congresswoman for what state? It's Minnesota.
Minnesota,
Yeah, yeah.
Minnesota.
So, and that they're saying that these funds were actually being funneled to Al Shabaab. Huh.
I was wondering who's followed the money trail on that one too.
Well, there you go. It's not really that hard.
Yep.
A confidential source told the investigator that the largest funder of Al Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer.
Well, isn't that Duluth? Duluth is that one town that is totally Somalian now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But
Where's that at? In Minnesota?
Minnesota.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Duluth, Minnesota.
Oh,
Or not Duluth. It's Dubin or Dobbin or something like that.
Yeah, $1.7 billion to Al Shabaab
Jesus.
in Minnesota.
what do you think they brought in? Heroin?
No, I think they were just.
No, this is in like these. I'm
Well, they don't
looking
just
right now.
give free money without something in return. That's really dumb. They always get something in return.
Well, I think
We are America.
no. So I think that they let so many people in, and now these people have American citizenship, like Ilhan Omar, and now you can't get rid of them now because they're citizens.
Yeah.
Um,
Trump's in there. He'll get rid of it.
You know who else is in there? Mr. Tim Walz, ain't it?
Yeah, Absolutely.
He's currently gonna be
He's the
going
governor.
through some shit. Yeah.
Oh, it's the federal prosecutors described it as one of the largest welfare frauds in U.S. history. Over $1 billion in taxpayer funds misappropriated. Says fraud encompasses multiple programs that caused 3 major investigations. 59 individuals have been convicted, 78 total defendants charged. The scheme includes Feeding Our Future scandal, covert era children nutrition fraud. And see, I've always wondered about those. It's like those, I think all of those are a scam because it only takes 5 cents to feed a kid per day. Oh, bullshit.
What's that? 2 pieces of rice, my boy.
Yeah. I mean,
Like, you ever played that Rice for Math or Math for Rice or whatever it was? It was online, and like during school, during math class, we'd get a little computer time. We go over and play this math, like doing addition, division, algebra, whatever. And then by playing and winning, you're donating rice to, I don't know, some unfortunate country.
Well,
My question is, why hasn't there been a fucking revolution there yet? Like, these people should be fucking tarred and feathered and run out of town. But they keep voting for them.
well, kind of goes into some of the stuff. We've
They
become.
bought people to come in so that doesn't happen, or
Well, yeah, that's
they bring people in on purpose. So there's always a one way for that side. Why do you think they opened the borders so much while they were in there? Because they knew after the 4 years with Biden, Trump was going to come back. They still needed a voter base in the country. But as soon as Trump came in, and why they raised such a circus over the border is that he reverted all the changes they made and then started just shipping people out of the country. And everybody that they brought in, no records, no nothing, no way to track them, they're on the streets. Now they've been able to locate, get a social security number. Now they've been able to find, them, I don't know, information needed to keep living here. Anyway, that was my point. Glad I showed up.
No. I mean, yeah, you're true. It's true. Yeah, because that's one of the bases. That's one thing that the basis is. It's the reason why the Democratic Party is complaining about all this immigration stuff is because it's taking away their voters, or not their voters. Yep. It's not taking away their voters. It's taking away their ability to hold seats in those districts.
Right.
Because seats in those districts are determined by population.
And they take away the question of, are you an American citizen? So now it's based on a head count. It's not based on a citizen head count.
So during the Biden administration, on October 21st through September 24th, 4,801 Somali refugees were admitted to the United States as part of the official refugee resettlement program. So this represented a really small portion of the 185,000 total refugees admitted during that period. It's just like, I mean, why? I mean, I can understand, we're supposed to be a country that helps all, but
why?
That's the problem is that we've been helping people for such a long time that we now no longer help our own people.
But our own people are from all those other countries. And why we have so much turmoil is that everybody has come from different parts of the world, and they have been brought up on their culture and their ways, that whenever we bring all that together and it's a melting pot, people will not be able to agree unless you have them fighting over things like the left and the right, right?
Such a puppy.
It's
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like when, even like during the first, the like when people started coming across Ellis Island and everything else, they got their stuff right. They did everything else. And if you go to New York City, you'll see that there's portions of New York City that are divided up into those culture cities. You know, you'll have like Little Greek, you'll have or Little Italy, you'll have Chinatown, you have all of these different things, and those communities are. It's basically like going across the border into that country when you go into the city, into their areas.
Oh yeah, especially densely populated areas with personnels that have imported themselves in here,
Yeah.
as have legally come over, and like they'll just take on people into their house. Like there's some cultures, they will buy big houses and have all their family in it. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
that's not like one of the American ways of thinking. I think that's a good way of thinking, but you tend to see that in India culture
Mhm.
is that they live by their family, not live by like they live with their family,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Mexican culture's that way too.
Yep. And that's where you get that significance of like male or the women or female taking male's last name, is that then
Yeah.
they came into the male family.
I don't know. It's all of this shit. Yeah, the immigration stuff is just crazy. I mean, do I agree? I mean, like I said, still, even with what Trump's done today, he still hasn't met Obama's numbers. So, I mean, and he's really not going. I mean, the only reason why they're more focused now on what's going on and not when Obama did it, because Obama did the same fucking thing. But the only reason why they're focusing on Trump is because they all have TDS. It's all about the man. It's not about the problem. It's all about the man.
Exactly. And it's all about teams too, right? It has nothing to do with what you believe anymore. It has everything to do with the fact that my team says I should vote or behave this way.
Yeah.
And nobody is an independent thinker anymore. They're just, look, I'm never ever ever going to root for the Packers. Ever.
Come on.
It might as well be the Green Bay Democrats.
Why is that?
Because I'm never going to vote for the Democrats, and I'm never going to root for the Packers. They're just not my team. Now,
You got a
I
huge
have
hatred on the fan-owned team.
no, I have a huge hatred of the fact that for the last 30 years they've had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and Chicago's had zero even serviceable. The only serviceable quarterback that the Bears have had in my fucking lifetime is Jay Cutler.
And I don't even
Period.
remember him.
Exactly. You're too young. There, Zillennial. But that's my point, right? But I'm never gonna root for the Packers. I'm never gonna vote for the Democrats. It's all about team. I'm just as guilty. Now I have opened my mindset. Well, see, right now there's only 2 teams to root for: the red or the blue.
Yeah, allegedly.
However, I right. Well,
With the money.
officially.
Yeah.
Now, there are other teams to root for. There's the yellow team. There's only yellow team I'd ever root for is the Libertarians. Right? But their presence is being squashed by the Uniparty.
Yeah.
So it's either one or the other, and they're both. It's just which end of the dog do you want to pet? Same dog, and it stinks.
I mean, talking about that there, I mean, what do you guys think about, with all the turmoil with, like the Democrats being at a overall approval rating of 26% and the Republicans are at 37%. Do you think that before 2028 comes around, if something doesn't change, that there will be possibly a an uprising of a new party, not Elon's party, God, but of a new party that maybe the totalitarian or not the totalitarian, the libertarian part. We already got one of those apparently.
Right.
The Libertarian Party or some other grassroots party that gets strong enough that people will join and create their own and just either become a uniparty or end up squashing one of them out. Just like, just like I said, the Democrats and the Republicans used to be together before the Civil War, and then they broke off, and then the Democrats became the Whig Party, which didn't last long. And then they turned around and ended up becoming the Democratic Party. So the fact of the matter is those two parties were actually in the same grouping. And, I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, like I said, what we'll get into later, I mean, history is proven to repeat itself. They always sit there and say history's on a straight line, but it's actually in a circle. It's crazy.
Well, I think the ballot requirements that parties need to, let me see, a political party formerly known, I think they have to get 4% of the vote to get on the presidential ballot. And I think that because the uniparty doesn't want that it's not going to be anytime soon. The presidential ballot. Now, that being said, somebody like my guy Rand Paul, well, he's libertarian in Republican clothing. Ish. He votes Republican enough to stay, a senator in Kentucky, but he really has libertarian views, as witnessed by him voting against the budget here recently. But right now, unless I think that's the only way a libertarian actually gets in. Gary Johnson didn't have a chance in hell.
Oh no. Yeah, because every libertarian that I know that was talking about was like, man, that was the worst person they could have put in there.
Right, and by the way, I watched all of the libertarian debates, and I was like, "This is it. This is who we're picking." The other guy who was that guy? The McAfee. Yeah, McAfee was on that ballot. He was on the stage for the libertarian primaries. That dude had so much baggage from drug charges in Colombia, and like they tried to kill him, and it was crazy.
Yeah, because he disappeared for a while and then came resurfaced, and
he died. I think he died.
I think he finally died.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, right? Is that's the choice? Yeah. So with the requirements to get on the presidential ballot and the quality of candidates that they're putting forward, I don't see libertarian getting on the ballot anytime soon.
Is there even any libertarians in the House? Or I know there's none in the Senate, but
maybe they can get on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Maybe that'll get them up there in the algorithm.
I think that's one of the things they need to start doing is they need to start just promoting.
They got to be a part of the psyops, my friend.
Yeah. Because it's just like
they gotta get on the trending level.
I mean, I know there's some local government stuff that there's libertarians in, but it's like when it comes to federal level, they need to get into the federal level. They need to get elected to the House at least of Representatives. Before I think what happens is because of people like you said, people only see red and blue, and there's 200 some different grassroots parties out there, with libertarian being the biggest of them all. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem. I mean, I've researched some of the libertarian standpoints. I mean, you kind of think about it. Some of the things, it's kind of scary because some of the things that, what's his name, Mamdani wanted to do was like on the libertarian aspect of things, like with wanting to legalize prostitution and a bunch of other.
Yeah, I mean,
different things.
it's a contract between two consenting adults.
Yeah. I mean, I know they did lower they lowered it to where the worker doesn't get in trouble in a lot of places, but the client gets in trouble.
Right, the person that's soliciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of libertarian views. I mean, freedom is like I said before, freedom is ugly.
Yeah.
So,
did you hear about the doomsday plane? Did you hear
no.
anything in the news about that? I mean, it went like,
Rebel. We should put that on a shirt.
What's that?
Freedom is ugly.
Yeah, we could do that. It's a good thing. Freedom is ugly.
You have to come up with a shirt idea, though.
It had to be black with yellow letters.
Black with yellow letters.
Yellow?
It's got to be yellow.
What's the significance?
That's the color of the Libertarian Party.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, play around with some designs.
I didn't even know that, quite frankly. So I know you just said it earlier, but didn't draw the connection.
But no, I guess last week so y'all know what the doomsday plane is, right? It's the E6B Mercury. It serves as airborne command and control hub for the President, Secretary of Defense, and U.S. Strategic Command. Particularly
That's a
during
whole
nuclear
lot of
emergencies.
fucking words. What are you talking about?
So basically, if there's a nuclear threat, anybody that's anybody in the higher levels of government, from the secretary, from like Johnson, the Speaker of the House, anybody that's in line for president gets in that plane. And then they stay flying until, or no, they get into Air Force One, but this one here is like their command center. This is like NORAD in the sky. This is like the major hub where everything connects to, and they can fly and keep everybody in check with everybody else. But it's basically, so I guess it was. I mean, they fly all the time.
They'd have so much traffic getting over to that airport, man.
Yeah, we have one that bounces out of or flies over here because it flies out of Oklahoma City.
And with how many accidents with helicopters, I don't know if they just a helicopter over there in DC.
Yeah.
That's ironic because of the helicopter crash right near the airport.
Because we actually have an Air Force base here that on paper doesn't exist. Tinker. On paper, it does not exist. But everybody knows it's there because it says Tinker Air Force Base out front when you pass by it. But on paper, it does not exist. Because that's where the B-52s and everything else and the AWACS and everything else are stationed out of.
Yeah, it's the Stratcom wing, right?
Mm-hmm. So, and that's where the EB6 or the E6B.
Do you think that's the reason why they didn't want to go too far into where our money was going? Is because they are basically saying we spend even more money on military projects?
Well, a lot of that money they can't, because the CIA has the largest military budget, and nobody knows what the budget is, and nobody knows what's in the budget and how much is left of it. No, it's a secret. It's a secret bank account that is spread across the entire world. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, a lot of that money they're seeing, like that, whatever the Pentagon has, because the Pentagon is the one that probably helps fund the CIA. That's probably where that big chunk of money is they can't find over, the last 15 years that they've done audits. It's because it's probably in the CIA dark bank somewhere. But yeah, supposedly this plane that flew over departed Naval Air Station in Patonksy River in Maryland and followed a southwest route over Chesapeake Bay, bypassing Norfolk Naval Air Station before heading out to sea. The public transponder signal was lost 60 miles off of Virginia Capes. They're saying it's standard procedure, but that's about right where the timing was just kind of crazy because that's right when we started sending fleets to Venezuela.
Why would we sit there and broadcast that signal?
No, I mean, that's what they said.
We don't have to.
No, it's a military plane.
Physically,
You
don't have to. Like, why would they if it's that big of a secret?
Hell, there's black trucks. They call them the ghost fleet that travel the highways. Or semi trucks that have no markings, no license plates, and law enforcement is not allowed to pull them over.
Yeah, what's up?
And
Why?
because they're government, secret government, and if they do get pulled over, the driver just has to show up an ID, and then they're let go. So, but yeah, they're called
the Men in Black. The Men in Black.
I don't know about the whole thing about them all being black, but it's like I know that was the thing like back in the day. It's just like, oh, if you see a pure black truck, don't fuck with it. But
new conspiracy. I need more proof.
That's another rabbit hole for you to dive down.
That was not as fun because I don't think it's going to lead anywhere other than they're probably just fucking transporting weapons weapons or fucking contagions back and forth. Infected monkeys. But no, I thought that was just kind of, everybody was like up in arms, of course, content creators jumped on that and started, oh, this is, disappeared, did it go down? It's like, no, they just shut the transponder off. It's
right
like
over the Bermuda Triangle.
It's just like the B-2s didn't have, they killed their transponders when they, there was 7 planes that went out, but only 4 were tracked. There was a reason. Because the other 3 is the one that dropped the bombs.
Right.
So, I mean, that was the whole point, You say, look at over here when we're coming over here. Yeah, dog gets it.
Exactly.
All right, so you guys I know you guys said you didn't have much to talk about, so...
That was it. Just the Somalis and how Minnesota taxpayers are funding terrorist networks in Somalia.
I'm glad they finally figured it out, though. But will anything be done about it is the question.
Nothing. We wag our finger and then we get back to
Not to my satisfaction.
No.
Because my satisfaction is pretty drastic.
Well, it's just like, I mean, it goes into all of the fraud and abuse that's with the welfare system throughout the country. I mean, that's the reason why everybody's up in arms about it right now is because, it's not a permanent fix. It's a temporary fix for a problem, because then it makes lazy people. Sorry, welfare does. Welfare makes lazy people. Because you can stay on it. All you got to do is submit a paper every so often, sitting there saying, no, I tried to find this job. I tried to find that job, or whatever. Same thing with workman's comp. But
do not feed the bears.
Huh?
Do not feed the bears.
Yeah.
Then that makes the bears stop looking for food.
Yep. So, I don't know. Yeah. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. I don't know. Like I said, some of the stuff that I've been going down the next few years are going to be kind of because. All right, so basically, this is all based off of, and a lot of the stuff it's probably going to kind of blow your mind, hopefully, because it blew mine when I finally started putting it all together. So, I mean, so we know, I've talked about it before about the generational theory, which is that we live on an 80-year cycle. And it's been proven throughout history that there's always some type of it's the same repeating cycle every 80 to 100 years. And so, like I said, that a lot of that starts with that because that's always fascinated me because, once I started going back and it's like, yeah, that's cool. Everything does repeat itself, and, but then I started falling into some of these other things, some of these other numbers and these dates and stuff like that, that were just crazy how they came about. But that's the reason why I wanted to kick off because Orwell was like my first, because I was diving into Orwell. I was looking at stuff about Orwell and his connection to 1984 and everything else. Because if you've never watched, there's an old movie on YouTube that basically depicts the book in video. But so basically, so 1984. Make sure I get my shit right here. So 1984 it was a book written by George Orwell, which George Orwell was his pen name. So 1984 was written in 1948. It was written in 1948 and published in 1949. Then George Orwell died in 1950, just 6 months after he published the book. And I think the reason why he published the book is because he was dying of tuberculosis. So I think he just sat there and, well, whatever I put in there, they can't come after me. So, so basically 1984 was actually the world was divided into 3 superstates. You had Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia. These were always in battle with each other throughout the whole book. So the main basis behind the book was sitting there trying to say that what people were thinking, because it was titled 1984 and it was written 60 years prior to, it was like 60 years into the future, supposedly, that people thought it was like an indication that we were headed for a surveillance state, because in the book they talk about surveillance through telescreens, which is the 2-way TVs, which, we have that now. Police monitoring, we have that. You basically have the Ministry of Truth, which is an actual British thing back in the day. The British thing back during World War II, they had a thing called the Ministry of Truth that would generate articles and generate propaganda and everything else because they, trying to fight the Eastern Asian, like India and stuff like that. So the Ministry of Truth was a real thing in the books. Newspeak, that was another real thing, controlling thought by controlling language. We see that now through social media suppression and everything else. But we also have seen it in the past, through regular mainstream suppression and stuff like that. And he always had he put this quote in the book. It says, "He who controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past." So that, in a sense, right there was just kind of mind blowing, because I'm not going to get into the whole basis of that, because that goes like I said, goes back all the way to the 15th century or the 1500s. But that's a good thing to hang on to, because if you guys do get bored and you do read the articles that I put out and stuff like that, that you'll kind of see what I'm heading for. But he also had some earlier works. So he had Animal Farm. That was another popular one from 1945. Basically, that was about all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. He basically was talking about how revolutions and stuff like that get hijacked by the new elites. Kind of seeing that with some of the things we're seeing in the past 20, 30 years with, big money, big banks and everything else taking control.
Big banks always.
It is. It's all about money and control. But so, the core theme across all of his works was basically that he witnessed temporary measures becoming permanent. So we've seen that with COVID-19 relief. We've seen that with the 2008 bank crisis and stuff like that. Temporary relief, SNAP benefits, social welfare programs. Those were all supposed to be temporary. They were never supposed to be permanent. They were just supposed to help people get back on their feet and get things going. So, and he witnessed all this stuff, but kind of thing that probably a lot of people don't, like I said, I don't know if you know who George Orwell, or heard of him or anything like that. I'm sure somebody has out there, but, and if you're reading this, leave some comments in the chat or in the description or in the whatever fields that you're on or whatever channel you're on. Or, go to the Twitter page and put some stuff in there. But the fact of the matter is, so George Orwell was, like I said, was his pen name. He worked for the BBC in 1941 to 1943. And guess what he did for the BBC? He wrote propaganda. That was his job.
Wow.
He wrote propaganda to India and Southeast Asia during World War II. Worked under the Ministry of Information. Wrote weekly news commentaries designed to counter German and Japanese propaganda. And back in 1943, he was paid £640 per year. So I asked what that would have been in 1943 US dollars, and it would have been about $2,600 a year, which was a moderate, get this, $2,600 a year was a moderate salary. You could own cars, you could own houses, you could own everything else if you made a $2,600 salary. Live in nice neighborhoods and stuff like that. So, I mean, £640 a year, or $2600 a year USD back in 1943. That's what he was getting paid to do, writing propaganda for the BBC. But the funny thing about this, though, that Orwell was in opposition of the British Empire. He didn't like the British Empire. He totally was against whatever they were doing. So they figured that's why they hired him, because they would be more trustworthy to the people on the other side if he was telling them lies about what's going on. So this is it was kind of crazy. Like I said, this is the way the war shit. Like I said, some of this stuff is just crazy. But yeah. So basically, so that they'd give him, like I said, give him credibility to it. But so it was kind of crazy. He also said was talking about when he was doing that, they had there was a triple censorship. So scripts were reviewed by the Ministry of Information before each broadcast. Then it said that there was an Anglican clergyman that sat in the control booth during the broadcast with a finger on the kill switch if he didn't like what was being said. So basically, so in order for it to not sound like propaganda, he would invite people like the old writer and poet T.S. Eliot and E.M. Foster's, those kind of people to come on the shows and talk with them. It kind of like posed as like an independent cultural program, but it was literally feeding information to the other side and propagandizing them. But
or a psyop.
Yeah. Or a psyop, yeah. One of the original, well, not the original psyops, but it was a psyop back in those days. But so like I said, the timeline he has for this is what's interesting, because he was at the BBC in 1943, worked there from until 1944. He literally quit in 1944 and immediately starts writing the book 1984. He told his publishers like back in June of 44 that he had already written so many pages of it, but when he quit, he was fully engulfed in writing it. So when you talk about looking at, the surveillance state and the wars and everything else, it's just kind of crazy. So in 49, so think about it. These dates are what clung to me. So do you know what happened in 1948? The number one major thing that everybody's talking about that happened in 1948
Was that wasn't the creation of the Jewish state, was it?
was the creation of Israel.
Yep. That's what I thought.
So 1948 was the creation of Israel. Okay, so think about it. He mentioned this in some of his later writings. 1984, he put 1984, but he flipped the numbers. So he flipped 1984, which was 1948.
1948.
So everybody, so now it's like everybody's now, I mean, not everybody, it's just like me. So now I'm like looking at it. It's like, okay, so if that was the case, Israel was created. We're having this big issue with Israel. Why, I've always, there's a lot of people that have always had this weird understanding. Why do we have such why do we hold Israel with, such, up on this pedestal, and come to find out, from what I've been researching, it's not because of the Jews, the Jewish religion and everything else. It's all a military standpoint. And I'm almost to the point now I can believe that Israel was created as a military structure.
Outpost?
Yeah, outpost or fall guy or something else like that could be used to control the Middle East and basically the rest of the world. Because we had America over here, we controlled this side of it, but we didn't have anything over there. We had allies and everything else. We had bases, but you put a state that we control, not just us, United States, but yeah. And did you all know that? And the funny thing about I found this out about Israel too, and this conversation is not all about Israel, but they have a big part of it. But did you know that Israel has a doctrine? They call it the Samson doctrine.
I did not know that.
Do you remember what Samson did in the Bible?
Yeah, so my dog's name is Samson. Actually, he's named after Samson in the Bible. Not the little Chihuahua that you just saw, but my Rottweiler. But no, he was this very strong person, and then the source of his power was his hair, and Delilah cut off his hair. Delilah was his love. She was very and I'm not going to get it all right, but I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version. But basically, she figured out that the source of his power was his hair, and she cut off his hair. Then they chained him to the pillars in I don't know what structure, but then he stayed chained to the pillars long enough. His hair grew back, and then he basically tore it all down.
Well, that's the basis of Israel's Samson doctrine. So basically, if everybody turns their back on them, their doctrine is to go 100% full nuclear and bring it all down. So that's the reason why everybody's scared of Israel, is because of that doctrine. Because if we back away because they signed that doctrine and we agreed to it and everybody else agreed to it, that if they feel that they're back, if they're being turned against, to all these countries turn against them, they'll just go full nuclear. And then just like Samson, they'll bring the walls of the Colosseum down. Basically, they'll destroy everybody in Israel, and then it'll go out from there. So, I mean, it's kind of an eerie thing. I mean, we all have doctrines. I mean, we have a nuclear doctrine. Russia has a nuclear doctrine. We all have a doctrine that we put in place when nuclear war was imminent. That if something happened, like us, like United States and Russia have what's called a mutual doctrine. So basically,
mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, you fire on us, we're going to fire on you.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the reason why, since Kennedy told, what's his name, to get the nukes out of fucking Cuba, that's the reason why we figured it out. And plus because we were in a race. Everybody thought we were in the space race, but we were actually in the nuclear race back then. We were in the race to build the biggest nuclear bomb. And we have one bomb that is actually bigger than any bomb out there, or we have the capabilities of building that bomb that will outnumber any of the other countries that have nuclear capabilities. And that put a scare into Kennedy when they were doing that, because when they were testing those, because they brought in all these, scientists, what's his name? The dude that created the nuclear bomb. There was a fucking movie about him.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Him and a bunch of other, scientists throughout the world, they created this, this program. But Kennedy found out that we had this capability. So it's just like, we don't want to start war with Russia. And I think, like I said, I think that was the whole thing during the Kennedy assassination, is I think Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy. Yes. I think he was the one that was supposed to take the fall, trailing it back to Russia so we can attack Russia for killing our president. Because his trail goes back to Russia. That's a whole nother thing, but it kind of like falls into everything.
Which, by the way, is why all these psyops that we keep talking about, I do not believe one. How about this? I believe very little of what I see or hear on television, on the news. But they expect me to believe that the guy that killed Charlie Kirk, or the guy that shot the president, or all these plants, right? I feel like they're all plants.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because well, see, like I said, the whole thing with Trump was kind of like a Kennedy. He was a thorn in their side, and he was stopping their plans moving forward into creating more wars. But I mean, it depends on who you say. Some people say that Kennedy was for Vietnam. Some people say he wasn't. So I mean, that's just all up in the air. Nobody knows, because most of that stuff's either been destroyed, sealed up, or whatever.
And now he's been silenced. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, he would have been silenced anyway. He would have been dead, but
yeah.
But he was silenced.
Then you have, Martin Luther King, same thing, was silenced because he was trying to bring peace. Charlie Kirk, silenced because he was trying to make people think. A lot of people
Bobby
don't
Kennedy.
agree. Yeah, Bobby Kennedy, the same thing.
It's Fahrenheit 451.
Go ahead, Frank.
I said it's Fahrenheit 451 all over again.
Well, a lot of these books are based on
anybody that thought for themselves.
Yeah. The one podcast that I watched about that psyop, where I watched the whole 3-hour podcast, he said he believes that that Sirhan was was created by a dissociative personality disorder, where he was activated as a type of a Manchurian candidate to kill Bobby Kennedy.
Well, look at Hinckley with Reagan.
Yep.
The whole psyops thing about the only reason why he did it was trying to get Jodie Foster's attention.
Right. Yep.
And look at John Lennon. If you look at it, all these people were trying to
speak out.
We're trying to speak out and try to get everybody to think for themselves and to look at, it's just like doing the shit we're doing now. I mean, talking about, it's like a lot of this stuff, I'm kind of like weary to even put a lot of it out, because if I put it out now and a lot of it does come true, in the timeline, because I'm putting these out all the way up to 2028, and it's going to end up being kind of like predictions about what happens, to see if this theory, this generational theory, because this is my project, because I like that kind of shit. I like figuring stuff out, that I like tearing it apart and then trying to put it back together. And so all these timelines and history, that's probably the reason why I've been such a magnet towards history, is because, in my mind, history has never made sense from what we were taught in school compared to what we find out when we actually start doing some actual research or reading or digging. And with AI now, it's a little bit easier and faster because you can literally find shit quicker and put these rabbit holes together a lot quicker. Like I said, I put this entire rabbit hole together in a fucking 8-hour shift at work. But it all came down to, I wanted something that would like resonate with people today before I got into like the heavy stuff that goes back, when the first time that time was put on paper, that it was constructed by man and controlled by man. So, I mean, and this has a lot to do with it too. 1984 kind of leads into what actually would be the basis of what we're seeing today compared to what we're seeing, because it also goes into like the generational theory and everything else. But my biggest thing is I want to see if this generational theory actually, I don't want to, because I'm kind of scared now that I got into this and seen some more, put a lot of different theories together and a lot of things that was like that it could be a scary time, and we have a very little window to correct it. That's what's scary.
Or even the ability at all to correct it. I mean,
yeah. I mean, so like if you think about the generational theory, we're already in the crisis phase. We're in the fourth turning crisis phase, which is the last segment of the turning before we get into where everything's supposed to be better and then it's supposed to start repeating. So right now we've entered our crisis phase, and if we don't, and we only got, if the 80-year block holds, we only have till 2028 till maybe 2036 to correct it. So it's kind of funny that all these things end like on a presidential election or begin on a presidential election. All these types of blocks, because they all go, the generational theory, what Strauss and Howe came up with, they went back clear to the Revolutionary War and mapped it out all to today's present, or until 1997 when they wrote the theory. So think of that. So 1997 is when they wrote this theory about the 80-year cycle and the turnings, the secula, and there's in some of Orwell's numbers, there's some dates we're going to see. So we all know the 2008 crash, or the 2008 system, or the banking system. So we'll jump on that real quick, because I want to go back to these dates, and then I don't want to confuse people, but we got the basis of Orwell. He was a propagandist. He was a professional propagandist. He was a writer. So he was a storyteller, which you need that in propaganda. But the fact of the matter that he published his book in 49 and then died January of 1950. He was only alive for 6 months before he passed away. So there's really nothing that anybody could do if they did connect the dots. So
maybe they did actually do something.
No, that could be too.
Yeah, I got, anytime somebody that is a truth teller dies, I'm like this.
Just so I'm putting it out here right now, like everybody else is, I am not suicidal.
Yeah, me either. I'm 100% not suicidal.
Frank, are you suicidal?
I am not.
He said that with such conviction.
Unfortunately,
I am not.
No, I'm just kidding.
So, but no, I mean that's.
I do know the song. Can we start singing the song?
What song?
I forget who sings it, to be honest. Suicidal, but it's okay. It was that Akon, Jason Derulo. Oh, you old farts!
Before my
I was thinking
No,
suicidal tendencies.
I was thinking of
Well, that's a
Suicide
good
is Painless.
song,
The MASH theme song, Suicide is Painless.
Right. That's really old.
Yeah.
Wow.
But okay, so we're going to focus on these dates. So 1984. We know by some historians and some of the things that he in through his papers and stuff like that he purposely reversed the dates. from 1984 or from 1948 to 1984. So the basis of it probably was because he figured, he'd be long gone and nobody would be able to track anything back to him.
By the way, that song was called "Beautiful Girls." Just putting that out. Sorry to interrupt.
No. So, but they also found out too that in his writings, in his memoirs and stuff like that, they found that he had 3 titles set for this book, and he picked 1984. His first date, 1980. 1980. So if you reverse the numbers, 1908, guess what was created in 1908? Federal Bureau of Investigations. The very first tracking of basically Americans through surveillance. Because the whole basis of the FBI was created to track the presidency.
Simulation, my brother.
No, we live in a loop. We live in. And that's what's crazy about this, because, like I said,
the simulation is on loop after the particle accelerator started up.
But I mean, this goes.
We just
way back.
Restarted during that time.
No, this goes. No, I mean we're still in.
I mean, we restarted, right?
No, I mean no. I mean yeah, almost 80 years ago we restarted. Because we're, like I said, we're in the fourth turning of, if you believe in the generational theory, we're in the fourth turning of the generational theory. And like I said, if people don't, I'm not going to scroll all the way back up. I have it there. So we'll go to this real quick, and for people that don't understand that may watch later or are watching now, I hope I'm not boring everybody, but this is good. This is kind of interesting shit when it comes to like the PSYOP shit. So the generational theory, going back to that, to give it a deep, little cliff note explanation, has 4 turnings. The first turning is the high, which follows a crisis. So basically, after our crisis is over, we'll hit a high. That will be, everybody will be better and happy and everything else. It happened. They tracked this back. The first indication of this was after World War II. So from 1946 to 1963, that was the beginning of that 80-year turn. That was the high. It followed World War II. Our businesses became, everything, the economy started growing. People were happier. People were living life. So, and then the second turning, which is the awakening, which brings spiritual renewal and attacks on establishment institutions by idealistic young adults. You think about that. The 60s and the 80s, the Vietnam eras, all the protesting, make love, not war. The peace signs went crazy. All the hippie generation. That was between that awakening, the second.
Which, by the way, the hippies were right. Don't trust the government.
Yeah. So the third turning is classified as the unraveling, which is marked by peak individualism, weakening social bonds, and institutional decay. We're seeing this right now. Or we've seen this. I mean, this is what started happening like during the culture wars in between 1984 and 2008. Everybody was like against the government, bad government, bad, because it led in from the 60s. So it just got worse. So now you have the fourth turning. So look at that date, 2008. 2008, what happened? The bank crash. The bank crash. So now that entered us into the fourth turning, the crisis. So the crisis represents society upheaval that destroys and rebuilds institutional life, which what they found out, like what happened during the American Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the Great Depression, and World War II. So that's why if the theory holds true, we are in the crisis. We started the crisis turning in the fourth turning in 2008. All right, so you go on for that. So that's what I'm saying. They say that what they said, they went through everything, and they did take, they and all this stuff, what happened, all the things that happened through all these different points and generations, then, they found out that there was a pattern. In scientific approach, you look for patterns. So they found out there was a pattern that kept repeating itself. So, and the reason why they call it, because it's an 80 to 100 years, so it can range between an 80 to 100 years. The reason why that Strauss and Howe felt this was happening, why it kept getting put on repeat, was the fact that usually by between 80 and 100 years old, all those people from the beginning of the first high, or the first turn, were dead. So all that history was erased
and forgotten.
But then again, like I said, this was founded in 1997. So the fact of the matter is, those three generations, or those three coming up, those 3 80-year turns, didn't have the knowledge to understand that they were on repeat.
And they wouldn't.
No.
Because the typical life expectancy of a human person is less than 80 years.
Yeah, back then it was even shorter.
It was even shorter, right?
So there was a lot. That's the reason why there's a lot of history not passed down from generations to generations when it comes about that, other than, the Great Depression and stuff like that. My dad was a kid through the Great Depression. I don't remember him saying anything about what it was like going through that. But I was like, he passed.
How old was he when he had you?
Well,
because I'm older than you, right?
I'm 52.
Yeah, I'll be 55 this month.
Yeah, my dad was born in 22. My mom was born in 31.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I lived through two different. I'm actually
50s.
Yeah, yeah. I was a mistake. I was proof that my dad was a.
You were the oops.
No, he got. So the whole story behind that is that my parents, or all my sisters and brothers were all having girls, so he didn't have any grandsons. He just had granddaughters. So the whole joke behind that is like, what do I have to do to prove, or what do I have to do to prove that you're a man? And poof, here I am.
Okay. Yeah, because my dad was born in 41, and I'm 50. I'll be 55 in this month. I would just say this month. I got way too much personal identifiable information that I just threw out there.
Yeah, we'll bleep it out.
But my point is that, I mean, yeah, the typical human life expectancy is less than that, and without understanding that there is a cycle, you wouldn't necessarily see it. Like you said, it's not linear; it's circular.
Yeah, and we're taught linear in schools. We're taught linear all through. Any type you take, any type of history, no matter how far back you go, is all taught in linear. Caveman, this, that, this. It's all taught in linear. Now, the fact, they can't go back any further, in documentation wise, because like I said, documentation gets a little hairy, past certain eras. But
and how did they know?
They started testing. They started testing their theories out. They started looking at dates. Like I said, the Revolutionary War. They started looking at the cycles, or how long it took for a rebuild from the Revolutionary War to the point to where the Civil War started. So they went back and they looked through all of those timelines that are documented to find out, what happened during those periods and how long it took. So that's how they come up with the theory that Revolutionary War.
So what can we expect from this theory?
I don't know. We know about it now. So that's what I'm saying. We don't know. We could either be stuck on the loop and repeat ourselves in 20 years, or we could be
in 20 years, or like in 2028.
In 20 years. Well, anywhere between 2028 and 2048. Because again, look at the date, 2048, 1948. It's 100 years. See, that's what I'm saying. It's mind blowing. It's boggling. It's crazy how these numbers intersect with each other.
1948. What does that have to do with anything?
It was
The
the creation
100
of
years.
it was creation of the
You
civil.
said it's the 80.
1948 was the creation of Israel. It was creation of the higher demand of surveillance and everything else, and
But you
it
just
was like
said that we're on an 80-year cycle, right?
well,
80 to
it's
100.
it's an 80 to 100. It's called the generational cycle. They base it out at 80 years, but they said there's a lot of things that still continue on into the next 20 before they figure shit out. So, like I said, the crisis era they found out was more of a broadened thing because there's a lot of things that can happen in between the crisis era that could either influence it to go further or it could correct itself. They found that
How
out through
long
these.
have they been investigating this theory?
I don't know. It was published in 1997.
And they were studied it all the way back to the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what's that? 200 years?
1776.
250 years. This coming year.
Well,
So you think of 80. You think of an 80-year block. That's 3 blocks that we've been through, technically.
Yeah.
Because 3 times 8 is 24, or 3 times 80 is 240.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things, and these dates and times and everything else are kind of crazy. So, I mean, if you ever look at it, so his first title for the book was going to be 1980. So you transpose the numbers to 1908, the creation of the FBI, Ford sent out the model, or started producing the Model T, which then started tracking people through transportation. Because now you bought a car, you had all their information to buy the car, so now they started tracking you through that. So that's a surveillance. So then his second title of the book. Now remember, he was using history's points in time to create a lot of this stuff. So the second title of the book, he was going to call it 1982. You transpose those numbers, 1928. We had the financial crash. We had Black Monday. Or Black Friday. Or Black Monday, yeah. Black Monday. When the stock market crashed, everybody started drawing their money out of the banks. And it totally collapsed the economy. And then we went into the Great Depression for what? 20
The
years.
fake economy that we created. Anyway.
Well, it's not fake. I mean, we did create it. It's not fake.
It's still fake.
I mean,
Back then
we're trading worthless paper that's not backed by anything, and back then we were trading items between each other. Now we're just trading paper that is
still items
built out of nothing, made out of nothing.
Well, that's so they could track you because, like I said, every bill has a serial number.
Yep.
Brings a whole new meaning to serial killer.
So, like I said, though, so we have the 1980s transfers to the 1908, the 1982 transfers to the 1928, 1984. We figured, we already know he said he transposed the numbers. That's the reason why nobody, ever thought that those 2 other dates would have meant anything. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, people just thought he was a kook because he was dying, and everything else. So they didn't think nothing about it. So basically in 1908, the year the institutions began systematically monitoring its citizens. So that was the first beginning of our known surveillance state. 1928 is kind of interesting because there's a lot of things that happened, not just with the crash, but there was also classified as a false peace year. So, false peace. The Kellogg-Briand Pact was signed August 27th, which 60 plus nations renounced war. They put on paper, no war. And then what happened 11 years later,
World War One.
or World
No,
War Two.
World War Two.
Yeah. So basically, it was, when they put the Kellogg-Briand Act into sign, there was no enforcement mechanism. It was just a piece of paper, kind of like the Balfour Act with Israel and all that. There was no enforcement. Kind of like the UN pacts, the UN treaties that they sign between countries. Those are just on paper. Even though we have Article 4 of the UN that creates an enforcement action, or Article 5, I mean, is it Article 4 or Article 5? Anyways, whatever one, that if one country of the UN becomes attacked, all of the countries that are part of the UN have to go in its defense. It's a reason why a lot of people say we don't need to be part of the UN.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you look at it now, 1928, Paul's Peace. Guess where we're at right now? Sure is a hell of a lot of peace deals being made on paper.
Yeah.
And some of them
Abraham
already been
Accords.
broken. Yeah, you had the Abraham Accords, then you had these recent ones that Trump put into place with Israel and Gaza and all these other ones. What were there, like 8 now? 8 peace treaties that have been signed?
Yeah, he's walking around saying he stopped 8 wars.
Yeah. So, I mean, are we living in
So
like
have I.
Huh?
I said, so have I. 8 wars within myself. Whether to order a peppermint milkshake right now or not.
Probably not, since you've been drinking. Milk don't go good with alcohol.
I only had one beer. One of those reds. Actually, I didn't even finish it. It's still sitting there. It was disgusting.
I think your blood sugar is high enough.
Yeah. It's probably why you're kind of like acting like you're sounding like you're like been drinking all day.
I have been.
Oh.
Bunch of water.
No, it sounds like you've been drinking a lot of beer. You've got that melancholy look to you. But so like I said, with all the peace treaties we have right now, I mean, could fall into that category of what happened in 1928 of all the false peace, So then you had 1948, which was the atomic control era, which is kind of weird because this is what I'm saying, that time is man-made. So August 12th of 1948, the first atomic clock was activated. Guess who controls time? The United States government.
Mm-hmm.
We have 32 atomic clocks, or 32 satellites orbiting the Earth right now that have atomic clocks in it, that are all regulated and controlled by the United States Space Force. Which was Air Defense Systems or the United States Air Defense Association, or a system, or whatever, back before it was actually the U.S. Air Force.
Isn't it still based on the sun?
No. It's literally an atomic clock that runs in these satellites that continuously spins at a certain time. That's how you get that's how your phones are updated without you updating it on daylight savings time. Mm-hmm. That's how your computers are updated all of our digital clocks run on atomic clocks. Mm-hmm. Computers run on atomic clocks. Any major electronic AI, everything else like that runs on atomic clocks, because they all have to have a timing mechanism built into the programming to keep them current. So, but they're all, there's a whole nother deal that I'm not going to get into tonight, because it goes in, I'm still researching a lot of it, but it goes real deep into what the atomic clocks do, how they operated. So, like I said, 1948, we created the first atomic clock, was activated, time becomes technologically controlled. So now the government controls what time you see. And if you notice, not very many people use wall clocks anymore. Not very many people use regular wind-up wristwatches anymore. Yeah, digital. Your phone's digital. Everything's digital.
I do have a wall clock, but I set it based on the atomic clock.
Exactly. We're told what time it is.
Right.
You know, so who's to say that we're actually living in the time that we, you know, so it goes back to like the whole Mandela theory. It's just like, so did all this shit really happen? You know, I mean, were we just told? Because I could have swore like 4 years ago, I thought Bob Barker died a long time ago. And then I'd seen something pop up on my Twitter saying that he, you know, they were holding his funeral. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. I could have swore I saw this exact same post like a few years back. Or not post, but they announced it on TV. You know, it's just like the Mandela, you know, the Mandela effect was created because Nelson Mandela was supposed to have died in prison, but in turn turned around and ruled as president for 23 years before he died in 2015. You know, and then you have the whole thing with the underwear, the Fruit of the Looms. You know, I could have swore my Fruit of the Looms had the
cornucopia.
Cornucopia. And actually, people have found some old Fruit of the Loom stuff and have started saying, yes, the cornucopia is on there. But if you talk to Fruit of the Looms, they never had that logo.
It's a psyop.
And then, you know, so that's what I'm saying. Time is a construct. We don't know what time we're living. I mean, we're controlled by time because you have to be there on time. You have to be here certain. It's all controlled by time. We're all controlled. Everybody says, "Oh, I could never be controlled," but you show up to work at 8 o'clock because you know if you don't, you're going to be fired. So you're controlled by time. So like I said, back in 1984, first atomic clock, Israel was declared. Basically, they've been in war since they were declared. They've been in war with the Palestinians and all of that ever since the creation of the Israel state or Israeli state. Also, 1948, the Cold War begins. So that's what I'm saying. It's just like one of the main points now is just like, did he really choose 1984 as not as a prediction, but more as a warning? It's already here. Because I mean, you think about it, you know, Eisenhower's speech when he left the presidency and gave it to Kennedy, his final words were to beware of the military industrial complex, which was, you know, that was one of the things, you know, that he helped create, but he also seen, because it was created as a temporary aspect to help get things back in control during World War II. And
everything's created on a temporary basis.
And then it became permanent. And the funny thing about it now is if you look into it, if you research the military industrial complex and you ask some of the people that are, even if you ask, you know, people, you know, they've asked some of the high ranking officials and stuff like that, they don't know who controls it. They don't know when it went from a position of trying to keep the military intact during wartime to becoming the massive, basically the biggest fucking arms dealer and weapons traders in the world.
And why do we have some states that go by daylight savings times and some that don't?
Because they've opted.
Hmm?
They opted out of it. You can opt. I mean, it's been on our ballot for the last 5 years to get rid of it.
Yeah, so why don't they just get rid of it? What is the issue with that part? I'll tell you why. Because they like to shove a whole bunch of nonsense in a bill to try and pass small shit. And then they only talk about the main parts that they're trying to sell.
Oh, well, Congress runs on an 80-20 rule. Daylight savings time is a 20 rule, is in the 20%. It's not really needed. So all the 80% stuff gets put on the front burner. The 20% stays in the back burner and forgotten.
Because it would be an amendment, right?
Well, federally, but I mean, still, the states could do their own thing. The states have the ability to change that. And when we look at Nevada, Nevada doesn't have daylight savings time. Or is it Arizona?
Arizona,
Arizona.
There's several states.
Hawaii doesn't.
Yeah. I know there's a few states in the last few years that have done away with it.
Yeah.
They've all went to standard time. But I mean, it was all
I think we should stay on daylight time.
Wasn't it just
Yeah.
to save farmers more time to fucking get their farming done? Or is that a freaking psyop? Giant lie.
Exactly what I know that had something to do with it.
Yeah, I thought it had something to do with it. I'm not sure what.
But I know. I think
I wonder.
I
wonder about these. I wonder if these numbers.
conserving energy.
I wonder if the numbers that Orwell was talking about were. I mean, obviously it was code, right? But it was much less of, like you said, a prediction than it was a harbinger of what's already here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You can talk about daylight savings time again.
Oh no! It was created in World War I to wartime energy conservation measures. Since Germany and Austria and Hungary became the first countries to implement it nationwide in 1916, alleviate coal shortages and reduce the need for artificial lighting during air raid blackouts. Modern idea of daylight saving, two independent proposals in the 1900s, New England etymology. John Vernon Hudson first proposed the concept in 1895. Oh, yeah, it says a common misbelief daylight savings time was not created for farmers.
So I figured. I knew it was a lie because that's all I'd known for the longest time.
It was basically
So
for
I
energy.
knew
Well,
it was a lie before
it was
I
basically
asked
for. I mean, I knew it had something to do with energy conservation during the war. I just couldn't remember which one. Because coal was the number one fuel to burn back then.
back then. That and butane.
Yeah, and there was a coal shortage, so they changed. They used to move
to
the
make
time around.
butane, you need coal, and right? Or were they actually? They were still using coal stoves.
Yeah, they just burn coal.
So
There's a lot of old houses. There's a lot of old houses like up there where you live and stuff like that, the colonial houses that still have coal chutes.
We still have one.
Yeah,
like we have in the back underneath the. I think we're slowly getting rid of it, but there was like this wooden contraption that's where they had their coal.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of times they would have it look like a door. It looked like a door on the back of your house, which a lot of people turned them into storm shelters. But there was a door on the back of the house that they would just open the door and the truck would come up and dump the coal down into it.
Mm.
And then the people would go down and put it in the broilers.
Yeah.
And train engines, you got to think train engines ran on coal too back then. Steam powered.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, yeah, that's the whole daylight savings time. Time conservation. So yeah, it's not needed anymore, but
just put it in something that's actually going to pass, because like I'm getting tired of like bullshit that they have a saying. The less shit they have a saying, the better.
Yeah, it'll never happen though, because that keeps everybody well. And the main thing is
if you don't realize it.
No, if you keep everybody exhausted, they'll just go along with it. Why do you think Trump did what he done with all this shit he's doing by dumping everything into Congress all at one time in his first 60 days of office? He was trying to exhaust them, so he could do what he needed to do, which he done a lot of it. He's done a lot of things, changed policies and everything else.
Did you see the new thing that he was making?
Mm-mm.
The Arc of the Trump. It's a big arc building, like in France, they have the little arc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, So they were asking,
I'm kind of curious
what the hell are you going to call it? Arc
he
of the
didn't-
Trump?
I'm kind of curious what this presidential library will be when he's out. It's probably good. I mean, it's probably going to be gold plated. I guarantee it. But back to the timeline real quick. So we have 1908, the infrastructure was built, FBI tracking system, 1928, false peace, which we're kind of living in that era right now. If you think about the repeating cycle, 1948, new control system, atomic clock, geopolitical restructuring. Think about it. 1948, AI. I mean, by 1930, actually, by the 1930s or the 2030s, AI is supposed to be totally advanced and supposed to basically control everything. So 2008, you had digital surveillance explodes. Here's the one that I love. This is hardcore proof that digital surveillance is there. It's not like on paper because you can't find it anywhere, but the pattern exists and the correlations are undisputable. So 2008, I've talked about this before. We've heard of remember DARPA, LifeLog. There was a system created by DARPA, the Defense Research Association for the government. They created LifeLog, which was to track, because internet was booming then. So it was tracking everybody's search histories, tracking everybody, what they visited, what they did online, basically their digital footprint. It tracked all of that. If you posted pictures, it kept a log on you, LifeLog. Well, they had to shut it down because Congress came back and sit there and say, well, we might be treading on, some privacy issues here that we could get in trouble for later on. So we need to shut it down. So they shut it down February 4th, 2004. Last day, closed it. Guess what live on February 4th, 2004? Facebook. Facebook went live the very same day LifeLog shut down. So, and what does Facebook do? Exact same thing LifeLog did. Collects all of our data. You're muted.
But they have you do it willingly.
Yeah. Yeah, now you know. So they figured out, well, I think what happened is they seen Zuckerberg had this thing going on with the internet in the school doing this whole matchmaking shit for, it says it was a social network, but it was for matchmaking. It was a dating site basically. And they seen what he was doing. And I guarantee that his parents probably had some connections in the government. I can guarantee that there was some connection with the government somewhere down the road that they seen what he was doing, or somebody, maybe his professor, I don't know, but sat there and said, hey, he's doing the exact same thing you're doing and it's working, So the government says, okay, shut it down. We'll put Zuckerberg in and make it privatized. And now that anything happens, the government will wash their hands of it. And now Zuckerberg can handle it if something happens. And guess what? He did. There was so much shit that went out during the first Trump election that he got his ass handed to him, got sued, got everything else. We figured out Google was doing all this crap. We started realizing that Amazon was spying on us, Google was spying on us, all these technology shit. I was sitting here talking to my wife, and I didn't even Google it, or I wasn't even on TikTok about it or anything like that. We were talking about O2 sensors for her car. Guess what showed up on my For You page and has not fucking left? And I have never searched anything on my phone about O2 sensors. And it was the very same day I turned on TikTok. The very first video I saw was some dude sitting there saying a O2 sensor hack. I'm like, what the fuck? So he's like, yeah. So, we're being surveilled. Orwell wasn't telling us be prepared. He was telling us, open your eyes. You're being surveilled. But like I said, my whole basis theory is on a thing called temporal control. So temporal control is basically controls time. He who controls time controls everything. So, like I said, time, the dates, it's just crazy. So we have the atomic clocks, we have all this other stuff that happens. I mean, the dates are lining up, and that's kind of what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to do some more research. I'm going to try to line some of these dates up and see if actually I'm going to start now, and sometime before January, I'm going to start trying to get some stuff put out there on things that I'm coming up with. These times are correlating, and see if they correlate with because I'm a nobody. So I mean, it's not like I'm going to be, I'm not going to influence the cosmos to do what I'm writing about. So, but if it does come out to be true 20 years from now, then I'm going to be too old to give a shit and probably dead. So, I mean, if it does come true, then I will be George Orwell, then we'll have that generation sitting there saying, okay, what was the connection between this? What the thing is now is it's like documentation, keeping documentation, pulling stuff that you don't want, paper. If you're doing this, it's just like all this research that I'm doing, I'm hard copying it to paper and I'm putting it in a file. And that way, when technology does crash and start erasing shit that we're doing, I mean, even when I was getting into this, it's kind of funny because it's like some of my shit was glitching even when I started researching this. I mean, and it's probably just me being paranoid, but.
Is that a black helicopter over your house?
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, if it was a black helicopter, you wouldn't hear it. So that's even more scarier. My dogs bark at shit that ain't there. But so no, that's what I'm saying. It's just like, so I'm going to be doing this whole breakdown. Like I said, from now until the 2028 election, I'm going to be putting out a few articles, probably a month, on some things that I find to see if it's going to line up with what's going on. But, I wrote, just like what I put in the chat there, but one thing is scary, how everybody keeps saying that, the rumor is that he's going to run again in 2028. The fact of the matter is we still have a few more months before the midterm. We have a year before the midterms, and there's war talk, Venezuela, Iran still on the boat. We're not going to attack Israel because we don't want the nuclear option involved. But the fact of the matter is like, so if there is a chance, if we do declare war, since we do have control of both Senate, or Republicans, not we, I don't know why I say that, but because the Republicans have control of the Senate and the House, if we do go into wartime, they could do exactly what Zelensky did with the Ukraine-Russia war, suspend elections. And then they could keep the war going to 2028, vote again because Republicans will still have control, suspend the elections again, and therefore you have Trump running a third term.
Yeah.
And then the movie Civil War kicks in my mind. When that theory came through my head, it's like, oh my God. It's just like, because that was the whole basis of that movie Civil War, is because the Civil War broke out because the president did the same thing, suspended elections and took on a third term. And then all these two, California and Florida, came together and created their own militia, which goes in turn with, what the Second Amendment says. But because, I mean, the funny thing about the Constitution is that there was a clause in there that says that if we didn't feel that the government was doing what we needed to do, we could abolish the government and create a new one. But I think during the 1960s and the 1980s, because there was an amendment put in the Constitution, see if I can find it. Take it. So there was always a part of the Constitution that sit there and said, if you did not like what you basically your government. No, it's not what it is. It's not what One thing I like about AI is because my spelling sucks, so it corrects it for me. It's like, did you mean this? Yeah, it says the Declaration of Independence. Oh, sorry. The Declaration of Independence especially establishes the right of the people to alter or abolish the government and create a new one. The Declaration states that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of the ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundations such principles at organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect the safety and happiness. But they put in the there was an amendment put in. I think it was like the 23rd. Oh, Jay, what's happening? Thank you for the braid. Sorry, I just seen that. I don't have any alerts, so I don't hear anything. Oh, so it's part of the 14th Amendment that they instituted the 14th Amendment, Section 3, Federal Criminal Statute severs consequences for insurrection or rebellion. So okay, so in 1868, after the Civil War, Section 3 disqualifies anyone from holding federal, state office. That's why they were trying to get Trump on insurrection, because it would have disqualified him for running for office again. Not it.
You want to talk about that? The insurrection?
The erection?
Yeah, was it just his erection or an insurrection?
It was neither.
What was it?
It was a riot.
It was a peaceful protest until
wasn't even a protest
until the paid fake motherfuckers started breaking in.
It wasn't
blaming it on another dude.
It wasn't even really a protest. It was just a rally. But if they could have convicted him on insurrection under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, he would not have been able to run for. That's why they were trying so hard to get him convicted. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, that's one of the things to be really scary about is the fact of the matter that all these dates, and if we are in, I mean, the theory proved the past, of all the rotations. So I asked it, what happens if we can break the loop? So one of the things it said is just like, we can't stop the crisis. The crisis has already started. So we're in the middle of the crisis. So, but the answer is if we could break the cycle. This is what the research says. If we break the cycle, only if we act now. Why previous generations couldn't break it. Why previous generations, they bark at every little thing that moves in the house. Says they entered a crisis unconsciously. So that means they didn't know it was actually happening. But now since we have all the generational theory, we understand, we can see that it's happening. So they didn't see it was happening until it was already happening. So if they saw that it was happening, I'm sure there's people out there that sit there and said, hey, this is going to happen, because I know just not these people were the only ones that saw this. But back then it was all rhetoric. You're just basically what we get now. You're just a conspiracy theorist and blah, blah, blah. But by the time they understood what was happening, emergency powers were already deployed, surveillance was already expanded, and populations were too desperate to resist. So that's the art of war. You wear down your enemy until they can't do it, until they become so exhausted mentally and physically that they don't want to do anything but conform to what you're doing.
Yeah, let them tell you.
Yeah.
The dogs.
So, like I said, one of the things is the 2008 financial crisis is a perfect example. Most people didn't understand what was happening. Banks got bailed out, homeowners didn't. Occupy Wall Street emerged, but had no coherent demands because protesters didn't understand the patterns. So now the result, power consolidated further. So the 2008 crash created the massive banking chokehold that they have right now. Because they figured, we did it like Fannie Mae and everything else here, just about 10, 15 years ago with Obama. Bailed out Fannie Mae or Fannie Mac and all those other
Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae.
Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. So I mean, it become a norm. It's just like they just, we'll screw up. The government will bail us out.
Right. That's why they took the banks took the unnecessary risk.
Yeah. And they said
they
that
they would get bailed out.
Even in that movie, The Big Short, it says in there, it's just like, the banks will. They literally said, the banks will bail us out, or the government will bail us out if we need to.
Yeah.
The American,
which I haven't watched yet.
American people will always bail out the big banks.
So if you think about, go back to the generational theory. So if you think about this, so in 2008, the financial crisis is what kicked the crisis, the fourth turning.
Only one person was ever arrested in that shit, by the way.
Because they all had connections. So what we're seeing now, so like I said, we're already 17 years into the crisis. And like I said, the crisis usually they said what they did says it typically lasts anywhere from 20 to 25 years. So right now we're basically coming to the climax of the crisis, which is where the danger is, because now it's where things that are permanent or temporary can become permanent. So all these orders that, Trump's putting in and everything else that we are temporary holds, that if the right people have the say and the play and everything else, could become permanent, just like all these other, like the welfare state and everything else was a temporary, still listed as a temporary, but it's been permanent since the 60s. It's been around that long. So that's what I'm saying. It's just kind of, like I said, the more and more get into this, it's just kind of crazy. So it's just like, everybody talks about the Civil War, will there be a Civil War? And a lot of people 40% believe that the Civil War is likely in the next 10 years. And a lot of it is because right now we've lost trust in our government. Just like Obama put in there that, once you lose the trust of your leaders, the trust of your government, all is lost. So we have 28% of Americans trust major institution, 33% trust federal government. 40% believe Civil War is likely to be in the next decade. Democrats just dropped to 26%, which is a historical low. Republicans are at 37%, which is still a historical low. So they have no faith in their leaders. So, like I said, right now we're in the time that if people don't start waking up and realizing what's happening, that this could be permanent and the crisis will never end. So if we don't wake up and do something, because we already know about these situations and how to look for things, and they do too. And if they keep the crisis going, then you're going to go back. You're going to be so exhausted. You're going to do whatever. Then nobody's going to care that Trump ran or is in power for a third term.
All they have to do is keep the veil over our eyes long enough for the cycle to continue.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all now because in the previous 3 turns, right? There wasn't this information platform where people could be awakened. But now I feel is what you're doing, what we're doing. Um, Now it allows them to allows the veil to be taken off, and then all of a sudden, now hopefully that cycle can be interrupted.
Yeah. And the bad thing about it is it's like, so if it's true, 2008 was the crisis, was the climax of the crisis for that cycle. Just think about what we have now. It's because now we're talking about CBDCs taking over, central bank digital currencies. United States government, the payment system is already on a CBDC. So when you pay your shit to the United States government, like your taxes and everything else, it's done electronically. There's no cash. You can't even send a check in anymore to pay off your taxes. We already have AI growing at a massive rate, and that's another thing they're talking about is the AI boom or the AI bubble burst coming in the next 5 to 10 years. Just like the .com did, back in 2008. That was another thing that happened in the 2008s was, or the early 2000s was the .com.
2001.
2001, sorry. Yeah, I knew it was like early 2000s. So that was the .com bubble burst. Everybody put too much investment into the online race. And so that's what's happening now. Everybody's dumping their money into AI, so that's why they're saying that they're predicting it will burst, just like the .com did. And it'll be worse than the .com. Because right now, if AI breaks down, AI controls. And that's what's scary about you seeing all these businesses putting in AI, getting rid of 15,000 workers to replace them with AI. You have, granted, AI's been in the industry for a while because, power plants run on AI, that got rid of a lot of jobs with them. But if it breaks and it stops operating, or these Silicon Valley people pull out and say, because 90% of the AI programs that are funded fail.
In this lesson, you will learn how to do.
So it's just like, so if you got 90% of the AI programs that are being funded by all these big billionaires and stuff like that, and all these investment groups, 90% are failing. And that means there's only like 8 to 10% of them that are actually doing anything. We've seen that with the cars, the WWII cars there in Los Angeles. The driverless, the autonomous vehicles. They're fucking stopping in the middle of the roads. They're fucking shutting down. They're, because of running off of map systems. So if GPS indicates that there's a road construction, they will stop where the road construction on the map says it stops. That's what I was to say. We're not to that point yet. We're not to the Jetsons era yet. But
I want to say thank God, really.
Yeah. But the thing is that there's so many people out there that are convinced that it is, and they're replacing. So that's the reason why I like Mike. You know who Mike Rowe is, right? He's the one that sits there and pushes like for everybody to get some type of a tech degree, a welding degree, a construction degree, or something like that. So those are the ones that will never be fully controlled by AI, because you will still have to have.
I thought Mike Rowe was the guy that did Dirtiest Jobs.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's also a big advocate
definitely
for.
Not what I remember for.
No, he has a corporation or an organization that helps kids get into and people get into the tech side of the fields, and companies call him to like line up people to to
He
get
said,
into
"I
the
did
tech
all those
industry.
jobs before."
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good thing. I mean, to know how to swing a hammer, to know how to how to cut a board, because we're going to end up, because like I said, if history repeats itself, we're going to be back to those days sometime, you know. This is like, I mean, it's not a bad thing to have. I mean, it's cheaper to get, and plus it's actually, it's a cheaper education to get, and it actually makes more money now. I mean, it's just like, learn how to work on an oil well, or an
Then
oil
all of a
rig.
sudden down the line, they'll be like, "Oh, guess what? Now we need more scholars because nobody's coming to get their health degree." And then it's always like a 4 to 8 year cycle on that too.
Did you all see the class of '09? It was a limited series about the FBI, and it was this class. They all graduated Quantico in 2009, and then so it's the futuristic limited series you're likely thinking is as '09 plot. The series explores the evolution of AI and its implications of law enforcement through the intertwined lives of these agents. And
Mm-mm.
kind of bounces back and forth between '09 and then like present, like
Mm-hmm.
2023. The series was in 2023, and in one of the scenes, this guy is in an electric car and he's going to save whomever, and the government takes control over the car,
Mm.
and then doesn't shut it down, but makes it behave in such a way that it's a threat. So then they shoot him and the car. It's yeah, class of '09.
Huh.
Think it was
Have to
on.
look
I
at that.
think it was on Hulu. I'd say it was on Hulu, but
But I mean, there was even one. I mean, like in the Tony and Ziva series for NCIS, they had something like that. They had there was a scene to where they were trying to find this hacker and trying to get this device back from this hacker, and all these cars that were autonomous, kind of like Teslas and stuff like that, driverless cars that you could drive, but you could also have it drive. They all just turned and started chasing Tony and Ziva down.
yep, I remember that.
And it's just like, wow. It's just like,
Even though I cannot watch network television, it's absolutely horrible.
I can't even look
It's
either.
it's like stabbing myself in the eyes with forks.
But yeah, there's a lot. Like I said, time is a construct, and like I said, leading into the series is like there's some things. But what I wanted to say is it's like the reason why I started, because I can't remember where I heard something. Somebody was talking about it, mentioned something. I heard it, like it triggered my mind when I heard it. Like, I think on a TikTok video, it was this guy that talks about all these interconnections and all these connections about things, and then it's just like, okay, and it's just like, so I looked this section up that he was talking about, and then it gave me, when I was reading it, it like started talking about time loops and fucking temporal control, which basically temporal control is controlling time, controlling the date. So if you look about it, like I said, I'm not going to get into a lot of it because I'm going to do a lot more research, but it's just like I found out like in 1582. So there's an old theory out there about what was it, like the 970 years that are missing from our history, our timeline, supposedly. But
Which 970 years?
back in, I think it was like, way back when, I can't remember when it was, like during the like, not before Christ, or not after, or not before Christ, but after Christ somewhere. They erased like 970 years. But there is an instance where there was 430 years that were erased, and from documentation, because they were trying to align celestial calendars. So I mean, just like 1582, Pope Gregory the 13th deleted 10 days from the calendar. So on October 4th, he went to bed, And the next morning you woke up and it was October 15th. And it was, so, I mean, that goes to show, I mean, if you have the authority to do it, if you have the leadership, because like I said, Pope Gregory was the leader of the, the Catholic Church back then. So it's just like, so if you could sit there and say, okay, we're taking these days out, kind of like daylight savings time, we're going to move these days and you're just going to have to conform with it. We're going to take these days away. So now there's 10 days less on the calendar. In 1752, Britain moved New Year's from March 25th, the Annunciation, which was the Christianity's holiest date, moved it from March 25th to what we now know as January 1. And that was basically that was like what they're saying was like the when secular converged with non-secular time, because now everybody is on January 1. Well, there's also a deal out there where there's actually 13 months in a calendar. Because if you think like October means, October is for octa.
Oh yeah, 8.
Yeah.
But now it's 10.
September.
Well, they added August. Yeah, December is 10, but now it's 12. So they added August and they added July. So July is for Julius Caesar and August was for Augustus Caesar.
Yeah, and if you think about December is Deca, which is 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then November is, I can't remember what the geometrical, but it's just kind of funny. It's like all of our everything runs off of geometry and fucking time and numbers. I mean, look at computers. The only number it recognizes is ones and zeros. That's how a computer operates, is off of ones and zeros. That's the reason why in the Matrix, when you see the screen in the Matrix, all that is just ones and zeros all going all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, like I said, I'm getting into this whole temporal control thing that, because I always sit there and wonder, it's just like, how do we know it's really 9:18? I mean, hell, it could be. And have you ever had those times in history or those times in your life where you sit there and it's just like you look at the clock and then you could have swore that you just looked at the clock, but it actually was like 15 minutes later?
Yeah, I have a lot of those. I have those often. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The time jumps. Or if you used to think like it used to take you this long to drive this long on the same route, and then it took you either longer or shorter. It's like, who's saying it's not fucking with time? Who says somebody is not screwing with time? And like I said, I mean, we already know they can erase time. I mean, by taking the calendar and erasing it. We already know that the government controls the time we see on our digital displays, which is also kind of funny because there is actually something to where they do increase the time. They've increased the time 27 times since the creation, a nanosecond, which we wouldn't notice. But because the atomic clocks run off of the gravitational rotation of the Earth. So that's how it's got to keep up with how the Earth rotates to how it functions with the atomic clock. But so yeah, I mean, I just thought that was interesting about Orwell, about the whole thing with the times changing, and yeah, there was just a lot of like scary things, and it's just like I know we're small amounts, Thank you for everybody that's coming in. If you missed a lot, make sure you watch this video. It might bore you a little bit because I think I bored Frank a little bit, but
I don't know what's going on. I've lost track. My brain can't handle all this truth.
But so, like I said, the biggest question is like we're in the crisis section. We're the crisis center of the 80-year block, or the generational theory, I should say, because it's not, like I said, it's not always 80 years. It could be 80 to 100 years. Because if you think back, if you go back and look, every 100 years, there's something that's happened in the crisis stage. But the thing is, now we got to look at what exists now. We have the central digital, or the centralized banking digital currency, which is already being in play. We have AI surveillance, satellite tracking. I mean, if you guys want to talk about no kings and no oligarchs, you need to find those people that control that, because they control you.
Right.
Trump don't do it. Trump's just setting the pace. That
And trolling.
and trolling. I mean, do I agree with everything he's done? No. The Genius Act, totally fucking stupid. The Genius Act, or whatever it's called, is what is going to be what is going to cause all this shit to come crashing down. When he signed that into effect, and I read into it to see what it all had to do, basically it was the AI infrastructure and the breakdown of everything that was going to happen through AI, and it included centralized digital currency. You don't want centralized digital currency. I don't care what people say, you do not want it, because they can track you. Look what happens in China. China has a tracking system like that.
That's the whole 15-minute city thing.
Yeah, and they have the scoring system too. So think about it. If you were controlled by the government that controlled your currency, or controlled what you spent, when you spend it, and put you on a $2,000 a year salary, but you owe nothing. Well, the biggest thing is you owe nothing. You own nothing. You owe nothing. That is the Klaus's saying. And that's what they want. I used to talk about it a lot.
Klaus Schwab.
Yeah.
Klaus Schwab.
Klaus Schwab.
Yeah. And now his son.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. His son's taking it, and then you got Soros and Soros Jr. It's
right.
Kind of funny. But that's what I'm saying, though. If you want, I mean, look into China, how their scoring system works, because if you get scored too low, you can't get a job. If you score too, if you do, and if they go into digital tracking, then they have then they have a way to actually control what you spend, how you spend, what you talk about. Free speech would be, you'd be able to talk what you want to talk, but you're going to pay for it. So if you talk like we're talking now against government, this, and talking about and trying to make people think instead of just conform, that would be we'd be reduced 5 points, 10 points, 20 points, whatever, or we could be suspended to where we wouldn't be able to do anything. Wouldn't be able to buy a house, wouldn't be able to go to the store, wouldn't be able to drive a car.
Right.
You'd be basically homeless, because they would tell everything would be on your scorecard. Your digital.
Well, they would stop your ability to even give yourself sustenance.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd literally have to go underground. And I mean, it's just like what's that one movie with Sylvester Stallone and Sandra Bullock? Anyways, it was a futuristic city to where everything was pleasant. They couldn't cuss, they couldn't everything else, and then they brought Sylvester Stallone back out of Cyber Nation, or chronic, they unfroze him, and
Cryogenic.
Yeah. And they unfroze him, and he was still in his ways when he was frozen. So in this new generation, but there was this underground. And that's what it is. You couldn't, if you went against the government, did this, did that, you got points deducted off your thing, or you got fined, or things like that. So you had all these people underground that were like stealing food, and Taco Bell was like the main restaurant in the world. So, I mean, but people were stealing food and everything else, but that's what it'll end up being like. Yeah. I mean, it's just like with the 1930s New Deal. I mean, they did the same thing. I mean, it worked good for a while, but it was supposed to be a temporary fix, not a permanent solution.
Yep.
I mean, the information is out there, but I mean, you need to grab it quick because we already seen that they're erasing history. You know, the Mandela effect is real. I mean, it is a manipulation of what we think and what we used to know. Because like I said, I'm from the generation that had the fucking cornucopias on my underwear and my fucking t-shirts. You know, it's just like, there's a whole bunch of things now that I think about. It's just like, wow, it's just, no, it used to be called no. It's just like the whole Star Wars thing. Luke, I am your father. It's not what he said. He just sits there and says, no, I am your father. But that was like the whole, you said that. If you watch that movie for the first time at the theater, and that was like the thing in school, you would come by and go, Luke, I am your father. So that the saying was there, but it's not there. So, I mean, yeah, so like I said, all these generations prior to this didn't know about the generational theory. They didn't know what to expect. They didn't know what to look at. They didn't know what to look for. We do now, you know, thanks to Strauss and Howe. You know, and so far we are living the cycle. You know, we are in the crisis and getting ready to enter the climax of the crisis, which will determine, you know, our next 20 to 30 years anyways.
Yeah, there's another show called another series called Paradise, where it's another Hulu thing, where an apocalyptic event happens, and they knew about it ahead of time, and the government built a paradise city inside of a mountain in Colorado, and but it was basically on that type of social credit system where there was no money, there was no, like, you had a little wristband, you boop, boop, and you bought whatever you wanted based on however much they had given you, and they controlled the sun, they controlled the time, it's called Paradise. Very what's that?
I said the Great Reset.
Yeah, exactly. And then they started to like the reality started to unravel, and the president gets killed, and it's a I thought it was a good series. One season so far.
And that's probably the reason why, because it was getting too far into what could possibly be.
Oh, it's been renewed supposedly, but the point is that it really is on that social credit system where everything is controlled. Your movement is controlled. Your movement is monitored. What you eat, when you eat it. They controlled the sun. They controlled everything because it was inside of a mountain, and there were these huge screens that simulated everybody being outdoors.
So what was that? What was that video game they turned into a TV series on FX? It only lasted 2 seasons, about the nuclear.
Fallout.
Yeah, Fallout. It's just like, if you ever watch that series Fallout, the very beginning will kind of like make you think about some of this shit. So the reason why is you had this company that was trying to sell bunkers in the 1960s, you know, in the 50s and 60s during the nuclear scares. They were trying to sell these bunkers. There was this major company. They were trying to get everybody to buy these bunkers and everybody to get prepared for the big one, you know, get underground. And it's towards like the ending of the first season, it kind of like gave light on how this was all coming about. So basically in a boardroom, they sit there and, you know, trying to figure out how to get all these sold if nuclear war was not something that was going to be done for, you know, a few years down the road, how they were going to get people to actually buy them. So they came up with the idea is just like, well, if they're not good, if there's not one out there, we'll just create one. So they literally bombed the United States and the world. The United States set off nuclear explosions in all these towns to force people to buy these bomb shelters.
So I had never seen that, but I've seen previews for the season 2, and season 2 premieres in about exactly 14 days.
Fallout?
Yeah.
Really? They're bringing it back. That's cool.
Yep. Because I was like, Fallout, that sounds familiar. But yeah, so it actually is set. Fallout is set to, the season 2 is set to premiere December 17th, 2025 on Amazon Prime. So there you have it.
See if I can find that. I'm sure that was a clip somewhere. Maybe. Probably not. Nobody ever. But there's another girl too. You know, going back to the whole thing, it's just like I don't believe like a lot of these people, but there's one lady out there called Sarah Adams. I don't know if you heard of her. She's like an ex-CIA analyst.
I've heard of her.
And she's turned private, and she does a lot of these predictions about what she learned through, you know, her time in the CIA as being analysis. And some of the stuff that she was talking about, like the ISIS and everything else, it's kind of funny because we just or the Hamas, all the Hamas attacks. We just had 2, or not? Was it? Yeah, we did the National Guard, not Islamic attacks. Sorry, we had the National Guard attacks, and then now there was another one, I guess, prior to that down in Texas somewhere. If I'm right. But anyways, they were both related to Islamic attacks. Or Islamic jihad, or whatever they want to call it. Another lady to watch too is Whitney Webb. She is very in depth in her. She's just, I don't know what she did prior to this, but she goes through. It's almost like I think she's just a nerd, and she just studies and studies and studies and reads and reads. But she also does that same thing. She connects all these dots and everything else. But no, there's, I don't know. It's like I said, it's kind of scary. And like I said, I'm going to start, like I said, if you go to rebelnationmedia.net and go to the narrative, I'm going to start posting some of my findings and some articles and stuff like that for the next, up until at least the 2026 election, and see how that goes. And then I might go on from there. Because there's a lot of information that I could bring down and create. But the biggest thing right now that kind of found was the false peace before crisis. Was the whole thing that kind of like worried me, because like Trump did this in his first term. You know, he did a few of those peace plans, like you said, the what was it, the
Abraham Accords,
and everything else, and everybody signed off on it, and then it didn't do any good. So I mean, that would have been, you know, like the starting of our or the not the starting of it, but the head on the nail, sitting there saying that we're in a crisis. Yeah, and the fact of the matter that our trust in government and our trust in our leaders are gone, first time in history that it's been that low. You know, the fact of the matter is like, you know, they've lost the legitimacy of being in power. You know, so I'm saying, they said within the next decade there could possibly be so the 1770s to the 1790s, the Revolutionary War was a crisis. After the Revolutionary War, there was a new nation. That was the high. The 1860s to 1870s, the Civil War crisis, Reconstruction, Industrial Revolution, everything else kicked off. That was the high. 1929 to 1946, the Depression, World War II crisis, post-war boom. Economy grew. That was the high. So now the 2008 is our beginning of our crisis, financial collapse crisis. You know, what's it going to be? We don't know. But it's up to us. It's up to you out there. Keep your blinders on and stop trusting all these damn influencers and stop listening to all these fuckers that sit there and say, oh, breaking news. I say it all the time. I get a breaking news. And it's just somebody reading a fucking script off of a fucking newspaper.
Well, shit, Fox News does it every time they switch topics.
Yeah.
They literally that bong, that sound clip, every single time that they change topics, it's a news break.
It's because it triggers. It triggers
Right.
in our mind.
Oh, I need to pay attention to this.
Subliminal message.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you hear breaking news, because back in the day, it's just like when there's breaking news, it literally was breaking news. I mean, they literally stopped the broadcast to say, you know, Bobby fell down a well. You know, that was like breaking news.
Yeah.
I remember seeing those a lot of times, like, be talking about the weather or whatever, and they'd have this beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
You know, and the national news syndicate would come in. My biggest thing was the Desert Storm thing. Was sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden, you know, State of the Union address, and Bush comes on and sits there and says, "We are going to war," which was never a war, but we're going to war.
Yeah, it was just the
only reason
the military force.
Yeah, the only reason it wasn't a war is because Congress didn't or approve it as a war. There's only two wars that Congress has approved: World War I and World War II.
Right.
So those are the only two declarations of war we've ever had so far. But like I said, I mean, if things keep going the way they're going, you know, with the crap going on in Iran still, or not in Iran, but with the whole. Well, I don't know. We're still targeting Iran for some reason, but you have Venezuela now. That's the biggest thing. They want to attack Venezuela. There's a lot of shit. Like I said, I'll break this down and I'll put it in articles. You guys can read it if you want. If not, no big deal. But like I said, I'm going to try to make it like not long, because I have curtailed my writing to like normal article size instead of book size. It's just like, oh, there's a lot of information. Then I start reading it, or I can put it on listen on my phone, and while I'm driving and listen to, because I can't read, so I've got to listen to it. And I'll listen to it. It's like, well, wait a minute. It's just like, that's like too long-winded. I got bored like halfway through. I was like, okay, so we'll cut this part out. We'll do this and do that. But yeah, it's like I said, we're living in a loop. But is it designed? That's another question we have to ask. Is it a designed loop? That goes into a whole new theory.
Yeah, that's another one of Rebel's rabbit holes.
But if it's designed, that would make sense. But I think I don't think it's more designed. I think it's just like people were, like it says, I think people were so exhausted during the crisis that they just conform to whatever happens. And that's what's scary about this, because if we end up in the crisis for longer, if the crisis extends beyond what is historically written, and then people will just start conforming to whoever's in power just to get out of it. We kind of saw that with the whole, the whole thing too, with the whole, one of the triggers to this theory is the fact that, Trump was trying to take funding away from things that helped people. And that was like one of the basis of like his further down in histories, like what their authoritarian stuff did. But I don't know. I mean, Do I believe that our current welfare system needs reformed? Yes, I have believed that every year that it comes up on the ballot that it needs reformed. This isn't the first time it comes up on the ballot. The welfare system has been needed reformed ever since it was created. And it's been a talking point with every presidential election, whether you hear it or don't hear it, but it's always been a talking point.
Especially if we're sending billions of dollars to Somalia.
Yeah. Or you know those other countries that we sent, that they found out through Doge or whatever that was, But I don't know.
They hate us.
So like I said, Gen Zers, you guys are the holders of the torch. You guys need to wake up.
I was talking to my mother today. My mother is old because I'm old. And I told her, I said, I blame the boomers. Boomers were asleep at the wheel.
Ooh.
The boomers,
they're too busy.
Well, they're too busy, but they also put too much trust in people that had ultimate power over their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And, they didn't take into consideration that, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this shadow government or deep state or whatever you want to call it, right? The boomers just put their blinders on. Like you tell people, take your blinders off. And then now what's happening is our generation, mine and Rebel's generation, is starting to wake up and put the stuff out there, whether it be in media form or print form or whatever. And now it is up to the millennials and the zillennials, right? To, like you said, pick up the torch and understand that if they do nothing, the cycle will continue.
Yeah. Or it'll either continue or it will be stalled out in the crisis mode.
Right. And that I think that the Gen Xers are the disruptors in the matrix, so to speak. And now we're waiting for a Neo to appear. Is that you, Frank? Are you the Neo?
You Neo? You're gonna start doing your little So, I mean, the one thing to take about it is it's like, so I asked it to do like a bunch of different like scenarios and predictions and everything else, kind of like, so the one that kind of like really reigned with me, and they call it the hybrid chaos, which is 2026 to 2031, 2026 to 2028, escalating tension, periodic violence, but not civil war, low intensity conflicts, riots, standoff, and terrorism, which, I mean, we're kind of already seeing that. Institutional paralysis, government shutdowns, court battles, already seeing that. Economic deterioration, international crisis brewing. So that's the point we're in right now. Because after next year, next year will be like the key indicators of how things will end up flowing out if you pay attention to everything that's going on. 2028 to 2029 is the triggering event, disputed elections, or debt currency crisis, which could be both, because if something happens, like I said, if it ends up happening, we end up going to war from one of those international crisis brewings, and we suspend elections. Trump's still in power, because if we're in a deep seated war, that's a reason why Bush got reelected, is because of the fact of we were in war, we were in conflict. He didn't suspend elections, but he was reelected because he was a wartime president. If you go back in history, most wartime presidents do continue their term. So the thing is, 2028, 2029, trigger events, disputed elections, debt currency crisis, major terrorist attacks or assassinations, international war begins, or all of the above simultaneously. So 2029 to 2030, peak violence and chaos. Either civil conflict erupts or authoritarian consolidation occurs, which means all parties come together and say, we're just going to rule and take over. Then the external war provides unifying enemy. 2030 to 2031, the resolution, but it's not going to be a good resolution. So one side wins through force or legitimacy. Surveillance state consolidates regardless of winners. New order established, but is not democratic restoration.
Yeah.
Conformity is compliance. Conformity is compliance, not consent. So, I mean, after reading that one there, I'm sitting there going, yeah, I can kind of, the way things are going right now, with the low, like I said, we don't have trust in our government anymore. I mean, to the point, to the lowest it's been in history. So it's just like, and you can't go against, you can't invoke that section of the Declaration of Independence, because there's been amendments put in to restrict you from doing that. Because if you try to overthrow the government, then it's classified as an insurrection. So basically what I heard somebody say years ago, because when I first realized that was in the Declaration, that we could form our own, take down the government we have now and rebuild a new one. But then there's that one sitting there saying, if you don't succeed, so the only way it happens is it's a pass fail. It's not a 2030. It's a pass fail. You take it down, and you pass and you create a new government, or you come in and you try to take it down, and then y'all get tried for treason.
Yep.
Because insurrection, the punishment is treason. Or the term for that is treason, and the punishment is death.
Question is, would you rather live in a state that you, in a totalitarian state, or would you rather be put to death for trying to overthrow it?
Oh, no, I definitely will do whatever I had to get rid of whatever's going on. I mean,
but how many zillennials would?
That's the question. It's just like,
maybe Frank.
I would recruit some of the older folk to come help me, but yes.
Exactly. You're not going to the fucking Starbucks to recruit motherfuckers.
No, those are gonna be stayed away from.
Those are fucking cannon fodder.
I think we got 2,000 of my closest people here where I live. I got that.
I mean, like I said, one of the things I say, yes, I mean, I do. If things continue the way it is, I mean, I can see us heading into a civil war. Like, it's not going to be like the 1860 Civil War, because it's not going to be. It's not. I don't think it's going to be brother against brother. It's going to be the people versus the government. That's what the Civil War is going to be.
I think we're too tribalistic at this point.
Yeah,
which is by design.
So, I mean, like I said, a lot of people classify the generational theory as hyperbolic or whatever, conspiracy. But you know what? The more and more that I've dug into it over the last few years, since I was introduced to it, I'm like, I can see it. If you go back in history and you look at what happened throughout the Revolutionary War, through the Civil War era, through World War II, it's a pattern. But like we said, it's because they didn't understand the pattern. They allowed it to happen. We understand the pattern now, or we have the ability to understand the pattern. But it's getting through the noise. You've got to get through the noise of all the crap you see and hear online, and start looking at these little independents like us, and start pushing out these it's not really ideology. It's just, you know, this has been going on for, France, 1799, chaos, ended up Napoleon's authoritarian stability. These are the things we have to look for. Germany, 1933, the Weimar chaos, Nazi consolidation, Rome, 27 BC, civil wars, Augustus Principate. That's what happens when people just get exhausted and conform. You have Napoleon, you have Hitler, you have Augustus. That's the reason why in World War II, they seen that. They seen what would happen if we would have just conformed. So, I've never been about conforming. That's the reason why I picked the name Rebel. Yeah. So that's my spiel. That's not even the doesn't even touch the tip of the rabbit hole.
No.
That's just a cliff note of what's to come. So, like I said, I'll be doing a lot of stuff. I don't know. We will just, if you go to rebelnation.media and then click on the narrative, it's kind of empty right now because I'm still trying to fill it with articles. But you guys have any article ideas or whatever, shoot them over to me, and I'll look them over and I'll give you a section. I noticed today that the viewer count's starting to increase. People are starting to come in now that I've actually cleaned up the website. But all right, if you guys don't have anything else, I'll shut up I'll close my rabbit hole for tonight.
Yeah,
That
just
was a
tip
good
tonight.
rabbit hole, my friend. Good rabbit hole. I was just sitting here listening,
Just the tip.
There'll be a pop quiz when we end the show.
I suck at testing. Get me out of that.
Pop quiz. No. But yeah, if you guys want to look it up for yourself, just look up generational theory, look up Strauss-Howe, look up the 80-year turns, the secula. Research it for yourself. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say, take my word for it. I want people to do their research. I hate it when people on Twitter sit there and say, well, can you show me? It's like, do you have Google?
Right.
I mean, I know you have internet capabilities. You're talking to me on it, so Google it.
I think their biggest problem is connecting the dots. Like, you question every piece of, like, every link, and then you'll go, like, that's how you go down these rabbit holes, and they're just too lazy or stupid to. And I'm the former. I'm too lazy to go down these rabbit holes like that. But some are too lazy and too stupid to do what you do.
Got brought up on TikTok where you got 3 seconds to be interested or not.
Well, you learn to be an expert in 3 seconds.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, that's why. But yeah, I agree.
But I mean, now granted, 20 years ago, when I first started getting into this side of history, learning about different things, it got bored with me for a while because I would literally have to pick up books and research it and write notes and everything else and indentations and, the one that got me the one book that got me started on why everything works is the Da Vinci Code. I read the Da Vinci Code from cover to cover like 3 times. Watched the movie I don't know how many times. But the Da Vinci Code was kind of interesting because even though I knew it was fiction, but the fact of the matter is like, how do we know it's fiction? How do we know there's not a bloodline? And we already know there's a bloodline, but how do we know that all these things that are in these books were not, somehow true? But that's what I'm saying. But another thing I want to tell everybody is like, anybody does any research on the computer or whatever, make a hard copy, not a digital copy, make a hard copy, print it out. Because the internet they say the internet's forever, but it's not forever. Because they could, I mean, if they wanted to, they could come in my system right now and completely wipe out everything I've researched. You know, or the system itself could glitch. It'd lose everything.
To lose your power.
Yeah.
But make copies, you know, paper's cheap. I mean, it's not, I mean, it's cheaper than a fucking computer. So,
Or
I mean,
you can do what Hillary did.
hide your hard drives.
Yeah.
But still, then you would need a computer because, like I said, the computers are tracked. I mean, you have an IP address on. I have 3 computers and I have 3 different IP addresses plus my IP address for my internet provider. So your computer has a dedicated IP address to it on top of what IP address you use for your internet.
We got to go back to using, what was those TVs with the antennas? What were they called?
TVs. Television.
I'm still waiting for the actual response.
That's
What they were called.
That's great back then. Yeah. I'm talking about what.
You're talking about the antennas, what they were called?
Yes.
Rabbit ears.
Rabbit ears.
Okay. The reason why they used
UHF.
because it was through.
There was a round one,
satellites?
and then there was
airwaves.
there were airways. There were very high frequency and ultra high frequency.
So during that YouTube shutdown and stuff, or with the NFL, people were going back to that. What does that even fucking mean?
You can buy these systems. You can buy these antennas like at Walmart now. They're like a lot of them come like in different shapes and forms, but you screw them into the back of your coax on your back of your TV and put them on your wall, and it grabs the whatever signal.
Then maybe if I do it that way, then I can be able to watch all my Eagles and Sixers games.
If it's not
because I'm not
blocked.
out of network.
If it's
I'm out of network right now.
Well, they can block signal too.
Yeah, but it's that those signals were broadcast. That's why it's the American Broadcast Company, the National Broadcast Company, and the Central Broadcast Company. Those were or CBS, which S. I don't know what S system maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know what CBS stands for. But these companies actually broadcasted these radio waves through the ether, and you picked them up with an antenna, whether they be UHF or VHF, depending on which jack you plugged it into the back, and you could pick up a television signal.
And if you put aluminum foil around them, it made them stronger.
Supposedly. Or if you stood there and you held your arm up like this, and you're like,
I am now the conductor.
Seriously, that's what we did.
Or if you were a kid, so like I said, so we were the original remotes.
Try to get the signal.
We were the original remotes. Go turn the channel.
Yeah, I was talking about that the other day. I was you had a built-in remote. His name was Scott.
My brothers or sisters would sit there and say, or my dad would go up there and adjust the antenna. You know, we'd sit there and we'd stand on the TV and go like this until, all right, that's good.
And there were 3 channels.
Yep.
That's it. 3.
What was that? The Weather Channel?
It was ABC, CBS, NBC.
Those were the only 3 channels back then.
Those were the only 3 channels.
Until cable came about. Then you had to be rich to have cable. Or at least one.
I didn't have cable. I didn't have cable till I joined the Navy.
Yeah, I think we got cable. Well, I never had cable growing up. I didn't see my first cable television until I moved in with my sister that was living in another state.
Yeah. And we had a party line telephone system.
Yeah.
So we shared a phone line with our neighbors. Actually, I think we had 3 to 4 families on one party line. So you could pick up the phone and you could hear them talking on the phone, and then you hang up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
And you had no idea it was on the other line either.
Yeah, you can kind of tell it, boys.
Yeah.
There's only 4 families. You guys got some aggression going on over there.
I don't know what's going on. Well, we have 2 healers, a collie, and then now an Aussie. And the 2 healers don't like the collie for some reason. Well, she is kind of annoying, but
She looked at the back of your head right there.
But all right, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys don't have anything else to do, I think we'll close out unless you guys go to bed.
Yep.
I didn't I didn't plan on being on this late, but it's an interesting conversation.
More like Rebels Rabbit Hole.
Yeah. I promise next time, but when viewership did go up, so I mean towards the end. So it always does. It always goes up towards the end. But I do appreciate you guys hanging out. If you guys don't, thank you guys on YouTube. Who's on YouTube? Make sure you hit that click and subscribe if you haven't been over there. On X, make sure you follow. I have started a new X account for the narrative. I will start implementing that. And thank you to me on Twitch. I appreciate you. But yeah, so like I said, go to rebelnationmedia.net. Look up the website and go to the narrative. And I've got some, some deep dive articles in there already, but this one here kind of triggered me. I want to kind of see where it goes. So I'm going to play with this and see if the predictions hold and see if the generational theory is real. I mean, I do have a psychology degree, just not a clinical psychology degree or whatever those are called, that research and shit. And enjoy. You guys have a nice rest of your night, or go to bed, go eat, go whatever. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I'll be out next week. So,
all right. Thank you for putting up with my rabbit holes.
All right. Take care.
All right. Laters.
See ya.